presenting appropriately. So the first thing I would, and there are a couple people who are not on mute because I can hear you having little conversations. So just make sure you're checking that. The first thing I would say, I want to remind all of you, is that we really are in this together. There are over 3,000 IB diploma schools in 141 countries. So when you're worried about, is this going to affect college admissions? Is this going to affect what I can do? And like, how is IB treating this? Or do they know that we're not in school? When you're having those kinds of questions, this is happening worldwide, and IB is a global organization, and so it's reacting to the global pandemic in a really comprehensive way. They know that there are some schools that are in session face to face, and then they know there are some schools that are completely shut down still. So there's lots of things that are happening, but I guess it makes me feel a little bit comforted to know that we are not doing this alone. It's not like this is only a Clackamas County thing. So let's talk about what changes there will be in assessments. If you are in a one-year IB class, or if you are in the second year of a two-year IB class, this is especially true for you. In a normal year, this is what your assessments would look like. You do your internal assessment. It would be about 20% of your overall grade. And then you would sit for May exams. And that would be the rest of your assessment. That would be the weight of the rest of the assessment. So all of these pieces of the puzzle together would make your grade, would be a component of your grade, which is going to be a score 1 to 7. Colleges give credits for 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's during a normal year, and this isn't a normal year. So what's happening this year is the first thing that IB has done to address the... Hey, somebody might be done. Is somebody driving in a car with their microphone on? There's a lot of background noise. So the content for one of the parts of an assessment has been removed. So for example, in history, the IB has said, we are not going to do paper 2. This actually might be biology. We're not going to do paper 2. So what our IB teachers have done then is they've said, well, if the kids don't have to take paper 2, then let's not teach the part of the content that is directly related to this, because that doesn't make any sense. We want to make sure we're preparing you for assessments to the best of our ability. It's not paper 2 in every subject, let me say that. Every subject except for math has had changes in the assessment. For example, in the sciences, you don't have to do a group 4 project. So it's not paper 2 in all of them, but in every subject except for math, there is a significant change where IB has said one of these pieces of the puzzle has been taken off your plate. So that's one thing to know, is that we're focusing the content that you'll be taught based on what IB has removed. Supports for you. So I will talk about these things. The first one I'll talk about is the focused curriculum. And that comes from just the previous slide. Your teachers are working really hard to make sure that they're going to focus strictly on what it is you need to know for assessments. Some people might call this teaching to the test or something like that, which I think gets a bad rap. I think it's knowing exactly what the target is and then focusing in on the target. So just know that the curriculum is going to be very focused. Your teachers are going to put out lots of opportunities for supplemental reading and resources. So in history, you might have a lecture about something. You might also have your history teacher post an optional reading and an optional video, or an optional assignment, and those are for you to take advantage of. We don't have you in the class like we have in years past, so the opportunity to take advantage of those supplemental educational materials is going to be in your hands to do, but they will be out there. So if you're confused about what is being taught, there's going to be supplemental information available in Google Classroom. Office hours. What I have ran into for years and years and years is students might be confused and they have a free period during third period, but the teacher is in the middle of a class during third period. So they can't go see their teacher and get help during their free period. And then after school, they have to catch the bus to go to the football game or whatever that's, you know, out of town. So we have constantly ran up into conflicts between kids needing to access their teachers and teachers being available. This year is a little bit different. I'm really excited for the opportunity for office hours daily. So every teacher has daily office hours. It's right after the synchronous lesson. And then we also have Wednesdays. So if you're confused about something, you have this unique opportunity to really connect with your teacher virtually and get clarification about what you need. And so I think that that's exciting. This third part of the Clover is, I want to remind everyone that we're an IB for all school, which means that a lot of the supports that our students are getting are embedded in the class. They're embedded in the way that your language arts teacher is teaching a unit. They're embedded in the way that your film teacher structures the learning of a new technology. It's embedded in the way that you pull apart, you know, an event in history and understand it. So while you might not see that there are special things specifically for IB students, it's because they're embedded in your IB classes. But I do want to point out that your teachers are thinking really carefully about how they are scaffolding their lessons in a way that you will be able to follow along, do your independent learning, and then come back and be ready for your synchronous learning. College credit is another important thing that we can talk about. Colleges and universities, they have credit policies, and those policies are not going to change. If you are worried about, am I going to get credit for this down the road? The university is not going to change its policy just because of this pandemic. It takes years and years and years to create a credit policy, and they're not going to abolish it right now. Furthermore, in the state of Oregon, all the public universities and colleges, so the big universities and the community colleges, are required by law to give credit for scores of 4, 5, 6, or 7. So if you take an IB assessment and you get at least a 4, in Oregon, you will get credit for it. I put a little asterisk next to the 4 because that is specifically for Oregon, and there are a couple of other states. Most schools, it's a 5, 6, or 7 if you get a score of 5, 6, or 7. We also have classes that are aligned with Clackamas Community College, and that has not changed. If you're in Spanish, English, and Math, IB Spanish, English, and Math, those are aligned with CCC, and so there will be opportunities to get CCC credit as well. If you're interested in exactly what classes have college credit, you can visit this website. It's just our ACC opportunities on our Putnam page. And it's the 2019-2020 document that's up there. It hasn't changed for 2021, but I'll change it here when I get an opportunity. But so that's college credit. I would say that it's important for you to know that we're going to register for IB exams October 1 to October 30th. That's not going to change. Some of you will not be in your IB class October 1st to October 30th. Some of you aren't starting IB classes until November 17th or something like that. So when you see emails from me that say things like IB exam registration, important, open this email. You need to actually open those emails and make sure that you are following through. After that window closes, I can't register you without paying an additional fee. Clackamas Community College credit will be done each quarter. CCC can change their registration window to match our new quarter system. I think that it's important to remind you and to remind all of us, we all already know this, right? Learning is something that students do. It is not something that's done to them. You can learn at your house. You can. It doesn't require your teacher to be directly in front of you. But it does take we're in a unique situation this year. And so I do think that more than ever, your parents, guardians, and even your friends need to help support one another. I know that there are some parents on this, and so this is sort of directed to them, but I think still it applies to you as students. Check your email regularly. If you do not have notifications on in your Google Classroom, set your notifications so that they're on, but be checking your North Clackamas email regularly. If you check your, if you have a Gmail account that's not North Clackamas, forward your North Clackamas one into your other Gmail account that you check. But just know that we at the school will communicate with students through their North Clackamas email. And for parents, please check your email regularly from updates from our principal, for updates from IB teachers, and so on. In the Google Classroom, there's something called Guardian Summaries. Parents will be invited to get Guardian Summaries, and you can subscribe to them either weekly or daily. There's lots of different ways, but essentially it's a summary that tells you what your student has been up to. This is really important for parents to have access to. Students and parents alike, I would say, make sure you've got Synergy bookmarked on your computer or in your phone and you're using it frequently. The other thing I would add this year that's so important is to make sure you're planning ahead and staying organized. Utilize your Google Calendar. You can't opt out of using a calendar this year. You really can't, especially if you're in multiple IB classes, because there's going to be a lot going on. So make sure you're planning ahead to stay organized. And then for parents out there, the number one thing I think that you can do for your students is to ask them lots of questions. And it will be annoying. Teenagers don't necessarily like to be asked lots of questions by their parents. I understand that. But the more you're asking about assignments and, oh, what did Ms. Colaswano assign? And, oh, what is that assignment like? And, why are you studying it? The more you're asking, the more students are engaging with what they're learning and really thinking about, why are they doing it? And it might even like raise a red flag, like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had that assignment that was due. So ask lots of questions and be really engaged with that. For students and parents alike, when you have questions about IB or college credit, my email address is Clark, C-L-A-R-K-E-T, and I'm pretty quick at returning emails. So as those questions come up, or as those concerns come up, shoot me a quick email and I will be able to get it back. Our phones are still connected at the school, but I would say that email is a lot faster than leaving a voicemail message. All right, so those were the three things I wanted to talk about: supports, changes in assessment, and college credit. And I can see that there's lots happening in the chat. I can't actually see what the chat is, but I can see the little bubbles going by. So I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting my screen. Maybe.
So Ms. Clark, amidst all the comments that don't need to be in the chat right now, there are a couple of questions. Number one, how does the inversion program work in high school?
The immersion program?
Inversion is what she wrote. I'm not sure.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
It's
Maybe she meant immersion.
Yeah, probably like immersion program.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're part of the immersion program and you're a 9th or a 10th grader, then you're going to be in one of the DLI immersion classes that we have gotten into the process of offering. That's not any different. You'll be with Miss Oriana for one of those immersion classes. If you want to combine IB and the immersion program, then you would take IB Spanish A, Lang and Lit, which is IB Language and Lit taught in Spanish. And Miss Oriana is teaching, it's a 2-year course, and she is teaching the first of the 2-year course this year. So if you're a senior, you might be in that course and you'd only get one of the 2 years. But if you're a junior in that course, you'll be in there this year as a junior and the next year as a senior. And as a senior, you can assess in that course. So what we've been able to do is take our immersion program and the IB program and find a class that really combines them at the top level.
Okay, will out of class work be different this year for IB?
I think that out of class work is going to be different for every class, not just IB. It will certainly be different for IB. You're going to, you know, in IB classes, we have a set amount of things that we have to cover in order for students to be prepared. We used to see you for an hour and a half. Now we're seeing students for an hour at a time. So a lot of the learning is going to happen outside of the classroom. A lot of it will be doing independent reading or watching videos independently. So yeah, I would definitely plan on, you know, if you look at the North Clackamas, they put out sort of that schedule of what you can expect for reading, and like, you know, independent learning on Monday afternoon is probably going to take you until 3:30. And I would plan on that. I would say that that's probably a reasonable thing to do. You're going to be doing a lot of independent learning, but then coming back as a full class and having an opportunity to talk about the learning that you've done independently and pulling that together.
Okay, if I'm only taking a few IB classes, am I still taking the exams?
That's a good question. So anybody can take IB exams. Most IB classes are 2 years long. The exception to that is geography or marine science. Those are the only classes that we have that are 1 year. So in most cases, it's seniors that are taking the IB exams. So IB, for example, like a biology is 2 years long. Juniors take the first year, and then as the seniors, they take the second year. So if you're a senior in an IB class, yeah, you're probably going to take the IB exam if you register for it. Nobody has to register for the tests, but I would suggest that if you're in that class and you want college credit, why would you not register for the test? It just doesn't make any sense to me. The tests are roughly $89 or $98 a piece, but if that can save you $900 in college tuition next year, like that's a no-brainer to me. And I'm not making those numbers up. Those are actual like tuition dollar numbers. If you're a junior in an IB class, so if you're a junior in IB biology, there's no test for you to take this year because it's a 2-year class. If you are a junior or a senior in geography or marine science, that's a 1-year class. So you will have an opportunity to take the IB test this year. I think I answered that question. What else do we have, Ms. Colaswano?
Okay, so for IB classes or classes in general, we'll get emails throughout the week to join their Google Classrooms, right?
Yeah, you're going to get lots of, well, actually, you've already been added. So because we're using Google Classroom throughout the district, you've been added to teachers' Google Classrooms already. So if you open up your classroom, you should see that your Google Classroom has already auto-populated with the classes that you have. If it hasn't, look in your email and you should find the links there to join those classrooms. And that's for IB classes and all classes.
All right, what do exams look like?
Okay, so if this was a normal year, I would be able to tell you exactly what they look like. I would be able to tell you that we will all meet in the lecture hall and your exam is going to be over 2 days, and the first test is probably going to be an hour and a half, and the next day you'll come back and the second one will be another hour and a half to 2.5 hours. That's a normal year. Where you know, if you can sort of picture like Hogwarts and the Great Hall when they sit to take their owls, like that's a little bit what like IB exam testing looks like in the lecture hall. However, if we are not back in person, then we won't be doing those kinds of tests. We will be doing either online tests if IB has that available to us, or last year what the IB did was they took the internal assessments, which is an assessment that you do as part of the class, as part of classwork, and then they used an algorithm. They pulled, they essentially scored it, and then they pulled the components of that assessment and said, okay, well, if the student got 8 out of 9 on this part of the internal assessment, that means they probably on paper 1 would have gotten this score. So they used a mathematical algorithm to derive a score. So this year, IB tests are either going to be paper tests in the lecture hall. They could possibly be online tests that we do, or we will submit your internal assessments to IB and they will use a mathematical algorithm to calculate your final grade.
Okay, thank you. How do I sign up for the IB exams, and where will I be going to take them? You just answered that part. And how do I sign up for college credit for the IB classes?
So you're going to get an email from me. We do IB exam registration October 1 to October 30th. You're going to have a 30-day window. It'll all be online. We will, but you need to check and get an email from me for that. Then the CCC registration will also be online, and you'll get a notification from that. We'll work through your actual classrooms. So if you have Mr. Jarmer for IB English, Mr. Jarmer will also send information out about registration for IB English. If you have Ms. Colaswano for Lang and Lit, she'll send information out about registration when that window happens. So there's nothing to worry about right now, but when you see emails from me or you see emails about registration, pay attention to those.
Okay. Does a sophomore taking IB Math get IB credit for it?
It depends on if it's year 1 or year 2. So if a sophomore is in IB Math Analysis year 1, then there's no test this year. But junior year, if they continue into year 2, there would be an opportunity for credit, taking the test as a junior and then getting credit that way. If you, but if you are a sophomore, you can't always take advantage of the CCC credit. So you have to get through the second year of an IB class in order to do the IB part of it, the IB credit part, but CCC credit is available to all students.
And are the credits transferable anywhere?
Yeah, there are some schools, you know, are most selective colleges and universities are not going to, they might say, like, we won't accept your Clackamas Community College
Leave that
English
dog
105
alone.
credit, but in most cases they're transferable. We're talking about very general classes. Biology 101 isn't special. It's like lots of schools have that class. So it's not a matter of trying to find a match with your transferable credit. The short answer is yes, these credits transfer.
Okay, does it look better on a resume? Yeah, does IB look better on a resume?
Yes, absolutely. Look, if you are applying to schools, you have to remember that you are competing for, if you're applying for colleges, you're competing for spots. If a freshman class at a college is going to have 1,000 seats, they're going to bring in 1,000 new freshmen, you're competing for that. They're not, right? How are you going to stand apart from the other 30,000 that are applying for those 1,000 seats? And one of the ways that you can do that is by demonstrating that you can take a challenge and you're not afraid of challenging yourself and you're not afraid of hard work. You know, colleges are always looking to see that students took, quote, the most academically rigorous program available to them. At Putnam, IB classes are the most rigorous program available to you. So when you apply to a college, they're going to compare what you took with what we offered. And the number one thing you can do is demonstrate that you are not afraid to take a challenge and that you are a curious, thoughtful thinker.
Hey, Tracy, this is Miss Pinkston, and I just wanted to interrupt really quick and let everyone know that we are monitoring the chat, and it needs to be appropriate, and questions need to be based off of IB. So I just wanted to take a moment and make sure that we are being appropriate and we are asking questions about the IB program.
Thank
Okay.
you, Ms. Kingston.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Pinkston. Ms. Clark, we have a few more questions here. Will class assignments be added to our calendars automatically, or do we have to do it?
These should be. I'm getting more and more familiar with how Google Classroom and Google Calendar work. But yeah, what I've seen is that when you, actually I saw a new feature today that says to-do list. On Friday, all of you are going to join your Community Connections class. And I know that there have been some questions in the chat about what is that class. on Friday, when you go to that class, one of the things that all of your teachers are going to take you through is Google Classroom, and there's a tab called To Do, and it actually breaks down, this is what you have to do today, because your teacher has said it's due. This is what is due tomorrow. This is what is due next week. So those things also will populate your Google Calendar. So one of the top things you can do is start using your Google Calendar, and then check out the To Do tab in Google Classroom.
Okay,
Good question.
are there any IB classes that won't be providing college credit?
No. So if you are taking an IB class and you take the assessment, you will get a score 1 through 7. Colleges give credit for scores of 5, 6, or 7. In Oregon, they give credit for scores of 4, 5, 6, or 7. So but you have to remember that they're 2-year classes. So the first year of IB Bio doesn't have college credit specifically associated with it because it's a 2-year course. You take the assessment at the end of the second year. But yeah, there's college credit associated with all of them.
Okay. What about Oregon Promise?
Meaning,
That's all it says.
I'm not quite sure how to address that because I'm not quite sure what the question is.
Right.
If the question is Oregon Promise still a thing? Then yes, to my knowledge, Oregon Promise is going to continue. If the question is, if I got college credit, can that work in conjunction with the Oregon Promise Scholarship? Then the answer to that is yes as well. I've had students who have done that in the past. But I think that looking at our college and career website on the Putnam webpage is a really good idea for people that are interested in the Oregon Promise specifically. I would direct you there because that's where you're going to get the best information.
Okay, those of you who are still posting things in the chat that have no business being in this meeting, it's really making it difficult for me to get to the questions that people genuinely have about IB. So again, I'm going to ask you to just refrain from doing that. Okay, Ms. Clark, here we go.
All right, thank you.
If I'm taking a math IB class in my senior year, and it's my first year of taking this IB class, can I still get credit even though I don't have time to take the second year?
Okay, so say that, I'm sorry, can you read that to me one more time?
Sure. If I'm taking a math IB class in my senior year, and it's my first year of taking this IB class, can I still get credit even though I don't have time to take the second year?
Oh, gotcha. So it depends on which class it is. If you are taking the first year of math applications, then the answer is yes, because it aligns with Clackamas Community College, one of the math classes there. So you wouldn't even have to take the IB test in that case because you could register for the CCC credit. And if you register for CCC credit, the grade that you get in the class, so if I took that class and I got a B on my Rex Putnam transcript, then I would get a B on my Clackamas Community College transcript for that math class. So there is some opportunity in math to get some college credit without taking the IB exam.
Okay. Would IB matter if I'm going to a trade school?
I think that's an interesting question. I would look and see, does the trade school require any sort of general ed requirements? So does your trade school require some English requirements or some biology requirements or some physics requirements, that kind of thing? If it does, then yes, I would suggest you take it. The other thing that I would want to look at is how competitive is that trade school? What are they looking at? If it's a super competitive trade school, you want to make yourself as competitive as possible. And one way to do that is to demonstrate that you're a curious, critical thinker and you're not afraid of a challenge. So yes, take IB classes. The third thing that I would say to that is IB is about learning content, but it's also about making, becoming a citizen who is able to like tackle problems and think critically about them and look at things from multiple perspectives. And those are characteristics that we can apply to pretty much any job, I think. And so I would say that while maybe the credit doesn't transfer over, the skills that you're learning are just going to make you a more well-rounded person. I would encourage you to stay in IB. All right.
Okay, couple more questions.
Okay.
Are there any one-year IB math classes?
There are not. The IB math classes are 2 years.
And do colleges make a distinction between SL or HL IB classes for credit? As long as they get a 4, 5, 6, or 7, even if it's an SL course, can they still get credit?
It depends. That's a great question. I don't know who asked that, but good for you. That's a great question because there are some schools that don't differentiate. They just say IB is IB, we're going to give you credit. There are other schools that do. Every college has its own credit policy. So IB doesn't give credit. IB gives you a score. And then the colleges that you apply to are the ones that decide, okay, a 5 is worth this much credit. A 6 is worth this much credit. So what I would suggest is that you look at the schools that you are most interested in attending and find out what their IB policy is. The easiest way to do this, no joke, is to type in to your Google search engine, IB credit policy at Oregon State University, IB credit policy at Gonzaga. Just type in that whole phrase and you'll get the policy right there. If you are curious about a school and you can't find that information, let me know and I will find it for you.
Okay, if I'm taking a math IB class and I'm a sophomore, then would that mean I'd be automatically put into the second year of IB math class next year, or would I have to sign up myself like the juniors and seniors?
You're going to automatically be put in the next math class for you. So if you're in the first year of an IB math class this year, you'll go into the second year of an IB math class next year.
Is IB Spanish a 2-year long, is IB Spanish 3 a 2-year-long class?
So IB Spanish 3 is a 1-year class, but it is the first of, so Spanish 3 is the first year of IB and Spanish 4 is the second year of IB. So Spanish 3 is just 1 year and Spanish 4 is just 1 year, but together they make up the 2-year IB math class or IB Spanish class.
Okay. What should a freshman going into an IB math class do for senior year if they want to try getting more math credit, college credit?
That's a good question. We have a couple of options. We don't offer it this year, but we're looking at offering next year Math 251 and Math 252, which is some advanced calculus. And so that would be an option for a student if they wanted to stay on campus. We've also had students who have taken classes at Reed College and Portland State University. So we can manipulate their school schedule so that maybe in the afternoon they're free and they can catch the MAX up to PSU and take their math class there. Reed has an incredible program where they welcome high school students into their classes and you apply to those. So when you get to that point, there are some options that we can explore.
Okay. I think we're getting down to the last question or two. I should be Spanish 3, but my schedule says Spanish SL1. Is that the same thing?
Yes, Kralis, that is the same thing. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think that's about it as far as the questions go in the chat anyway.
Okay.
Tracy, I saw another question.
Yeah.
What should a freshman going into an IB math class do for senior year if they want to try to get more math credit or college credit? It sounds like the freshman is going into IB math now.
So
I
by
think
the time
that.
Yeah, I did just answer it, but
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I was halfway paying attention. Ignore me. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else out there?
What do I do if I